friends, and welcome back to my channel. I'm so happy you're here today because I'll be talking about the rest of the books I ended up reading in May. May turned out to be another pretty epic reading month. I think I read 18 or 19 books in May. So yeah, I already talked about a couple books just so this wrap up wouldn't be super long, and I will link that in the cards and in the description box down below, some recent reads for May. But getting into my wrap up, one of my favorite books I read this month was The Amulet by Michael McDowell. Did we all not know that I would love this? Yes, I loved it so much. I'm like smelling it. I don't know why. Trying to like get back into the sense when I was reading it. Yeah, this is such a great book. Oh my gosh. I think this would be a really fun one to start with, Michael McDowell. I know everybody says like the elementals and stuff, but I think this is one of his first works. This is written in 78 or 79, and it is gnarly. It gets so gross and gory. It felt almost like pulpy in times, but I really liked it. I liked that kind of pulp feel, that B horror movie vibes feel, and then just the dialogue between the characters in this is so great. Michael McDowell takes his time setting up the town of Pinecone in Alabama. It's Alabama or Louisiana. Alabama, yes. And he sets up his time setting it up. The first 3 chapters is no dialogue, really. And yeah, you don't get anybody's POV yet. It's just kind of talking about the town, the class, the racism, this how it's structurally made, where everybody works, the time, like the schedule everybody's on. So I could see going into it being like kind of boring, but when you hit chapter 3, it's fantastic. But I really liked the setup as well because I felt like that was really important. And we are following a woman whose husband, actually he went to go to like the training camp for Vietnam, oh my god. And one of the rifles explodes in his face, leaving him kind of in a, I don't want to say a coma, he's not really in a coma, he just doesn't talk, and his face is really messed up, and she has to feed him and dress him and take care of him, while at the same time she's working full-time at Zed Ammunition's good place, because it's the only like factory in this town, and dealing with his mother-in-law. And his mother-in-law is the most like spiteful woman you've ever met, a spiteful southern woman, and yeah, she's really crazy, and she gives this amulet to one of her son's friends that comes to visit, and terrible stuff happens, and then Sarah is the main character of this. Sarah kind of is figuring it out, and her friend are trying to like save the day in this. But yeah, I love the friendship between Sarah and, I'm terrible with names right now, I can't think of it. Is it Bethany? I think it's Bethany. I really liked their friendship. It's fun to read, you know, a fun friendship and them teaming up to like fight this evil, and yeah, it's so gory. The kill scenes are unique. It just builds and builds and builds. The dread builds. 5 stars. So good. Highly recommend. The next books I'm going to talk about, I actually read for a reading vlog in May. It's Reading New Horror reading vlog. I read 6 books in that vlog, and I'll link it in the description box and the cards. If you guys want to watch it, I kind of go into more thoughts and details and stuff about these books, but I'm just going to touch on them really quickly here, starting with Antisocial Housing by Tim Mendez. I really enjoyed this one. It was just like really fun and kind of goofy. It was like funny. Again, like I love P-horror films, and it definitely gave me those vibes with a little bit of cosmic horror thrown in there for some fun, and I ended up giving this one 4 stars. The next book is available on Kindle Unlimited, and it's another novella, and I highly suggest everybody just reading it because it is super fun as well. And that is The Lunchling by J. Alexander. I had so much fun with this. I read this in one sitting at work. I was working alone, and it was like quiet, and it was magnificent. This has a bunch of horror movie references in it. It's a spooky doll book, and yeah, I gave it 4 stars. Again, just like a lot of fun and a nice little break from some heavier books that I ended up reading. Next book I ended up reading for that vlog was an ARC, and that's The Fervor by Alma Katsu. This was, yeah, a new release, and this was about, we follow characters that are in an internment, a Japanese internment camp towards the end of World War II, but it jumps around a bunch. There's a lot of characters in this, and that was kind of why I knocked off a star for it. I think the story is excellent. I loved the horror in it. It is a Japanese folklore type of horror, and it was done so well. I think the horror aspects of this, but again, jumping around a bunch, I wasn't a huge fan of, and there's a character that we follow that I feel like we didn't really need to follow, but overall I really liked it and ended up giving it 4 stars. The next book I read for that vlog was The Hacienda by Isabel Canes. This is a historical horror book, spooky paranormal book, and I ended up giving this one 3 stars, just because it was really slowed down, and honestly I wanted to follow Andreas more than Beatrice. Andreas I'm way more interesting than Beatrice, and there's also like a weird romance thing in this that I just didn't care for, but yeah, I still enjoyed it, but not as much as I thought I would, so yeah, I gave it 3 stars. The next book I read for that vlog was You've Lost a Lot of Blood by Eric LaRocca. I totally blanked on the name for a second. This is a novella, but it's also a novella in a novella. So this is kind of set up like a found footage situation. Like, this couple is missing after committing some atrocities, and this is like recordings, poems, journal entries, but we're flipping back and forth from a novella that is called You've Lost a Lot of Blood. And honestly, the novella is like so weird and intense, and yeah, it was very bizarre, and I really liked how that was the novella, and this felt like a movie, but the whole thing felt like a lost footage kind of movie anyways. And yeah, I might be talking about this on Kitty's channel, so I will link that down below if that happens this week. I'm not sure when it's happening. Our schedules are just like really crazy, and I feel bad, but yes, I ended up giving this one 5 stars. I really liked it and highly suggest it. The last book I ended up reading for that vlog was Dead Daughters by Tim Meyer. I didn't really care for this one. It felt, yeah, very drawn out. I didn't like the main character at all, so that probably had a lot to do with my rating. I ended up giving this one 2 stars. Next book I ended up reading is another new release as well for May, and that was Just Like Mother by Annie Hetzkoll, and this is a Rosemary's Baby type of book, very much like Rosemary's Baby, and set in modern day New York City, I guess. Oh, so is Rosemary's Baby. Wow. Okay. So this is about a girl who escapes a cult called the Mother Collective, and they are psychotic mothers, and basically she has spent the rest of her life since she escaped when she was 8 years old, like kind of dealing with her trauma and building those walls and protecting herself, but she gets a little lonely. She doesn't let a lot of people in, and her cousin, who she grew up with in the Mother Collective, has reached out to her, and she being you know, kind of looking for a family now, she kind of jumps to the occasion to spend time with her immediately. Her cousin asked something of her that she's not comfortable with, but kind of smooths over and still ends up going back. My biggest thing with this is the main character, Maeve, has apparently never read or seen Rosemary's Baby, and it's just like, yo, this is like Rosemary's Baby. Like, you need to run. It's like, what are you doing? Have you never heard of this movie before? And yeah, there's creepy, real life, like robot dolls in this, which I wanted a little bit more from as well. But overall, I really enjoyed it. Maeve was such a sympathetic character. You really felt for her, even though you were like, really? But yeah, I really cared about her, and I ended up giving this one 4 stars. I highly suggest it, especially if you like weird doll stuff. There's a little bit of that in there, but Rosemary's Baby, if you are a huge fan of that, I highly suggest this one as well. The next book I'm going to talk about, I'm going to really tread carefully to not spoil it, because I just talked about it and I'm pretty sure I just spoiled it. So I'm going to be very vague about it, just know it's really good, and that is The Between by KatrinaBrown. I keep comparing this to Final Destination, but dialed up to 11, and with very heavy, like, psychological tones in it. And I really hesitate, like, that's all I really want to say about it. I just know it's very good. I loved the ending of this. It was one of those endings where I have goosebumps right now just thinking about it. Yeah, it was just fantastic. But I'm a huge fan of this particular ending as well. Yeah, and I don't want to say a ton about it because, you know. Also, if you like erotic stuff, erotic horror, there's a lot of erotic scenes in this. There's probably not a lot. It probably seemed like a lot to me because I don't really care for it. But I was like, AFZrBQThLhU&t. Wow, okay. So we're going there. She mixes it with the horror so well. I was kind of blown away. I was just like, hold up. I'm scared. I'm scared. And yeah, 5 stars. It's wonderful. I think everybody should read it. And yeah, I just don't want to give too much away. But it is about a guy who starts to have weird dreams, and he's remembering how his grandmother saved his life when he was drowning, and she ended up drowning. And that is all I'm going to say about this. Just read it. It's so good. Also, this is like an older version of it, but this did have a re-release that has a beautiful cover that also kind of ties into the theme of the book as well. So does this one. Has 2 different doors there. And the foreword for this by KatrinaBrown is new, and I read the foreword because I actually had an ARC of this in NetGalley. So I read that in ebook form, and then I read the rest physically. It was wonderful. I loved it. 5 stars. Highly suggest. So the next book I'm going to talk about is The Worm and His Kings by Hailey Piper. This is a little novella, and it was so much fun. I read this on Lexi's reading sprints I did last week. Well, I read most of it on the sprints, but yeah, it's super tiny. I think it's 120 pages, and this is about a woman named Monique, and she is looking for her girlfriend Donna in the tunnels underneath New York City in the 90s, and she stumbles upon a cult that worships this worm, and that is all I'm going to say about this one. I don't want to spoil it, but if you like cosmic horror, you'll love it. And honestly, it says right here on the blurb that this is cosmic horror, but I didn't know it was cosmic horror when I read it, so that was a really fun surprise. I really enjoyed the use of singing in this. I also just saw Min pretty recently, and that kind of has that kind of stuff in it, that creepy music in this, but it translated really well in this. I know that's really tough to do, to put singing in your books, and how that translates, but it works in this, and I loved it, and I can't wait to read more from Hailey Piper. Yeah, it was so great. It was really good. The horror aspects of this were kind of 2 very different things, but mixed together. It worked really well. And yeah, I highly suggest this one, The Worm and His Kings. I gave it 5 stars as well. I feel like everything was just so good. I gave it 1,000,000 stars. You know, just check it out. Okay, the last book I'm going to talk about is Hidden Pictures by Jason Rakulik. This I listened to, I think on Scribd. I think it was scribd. But anyways, I don't recommend listening to it. The voice acting was kind of grating because there is a lot of dialogue from a small child in this. I think it's a 5-year-old child, so it'd be like, ooh, annoying. But I hear reading the physical book is a lot better. There's pictures in the book, and the pictures play a key role in this story. So if you like creepy kid stuff, if you like a mystery, like with a little bit of paranormal aspects to it, you'll probably like it more than I did. I still enjoyed it, but I highly recommend reading this one physically or on like an ebook or something, because the audio just didn't work for me. So I ended up giving it 3 stars. So I totally forgot, I haven't finished this book yet, but by the time this comes out, it will be finished, so I will write what I think of it in the pinned comment. But I'm halfway through The Lies to be Told by Camilla Way, and so far I'm really liking it. It is 2 shifting POVs so far. It is in the 80s, troubled child, evil child situation happening, which is just so much fun. And then we flip forward to 2017 London, where a woman is missing her boyfriend, so it's kind of like a mystery. So it flips back and forth from horror to mystery, and so far I'm really liking it. I won't really go into anything else about it, but I will write in the pinned comment what I rated it, because it is May 30th today, so this will be done before June, but I'm filming today. Let me know in the comments down below, have you read any of these books, or are you intrigued to read any of these books, or what did you think of any of these books? And you guys have a great day. Bye!